Well, two of the captives freed over the weekend included 17-year-old Noam Or and his 13-year-old sister, Alma. Their mother was one of more than 100 people killed at the kibbutz Be'er during Hamas's devastating attacks on the 7th of October. The children's father is still being kept hostage by Hamas. Well, we're joined now by their uncle, Ahal Besorai. Ahal, thank you so much for joining us again. It's obviously so much more positive news since the last time that we spoke to you. You've spoken to your niece and nephew. How are they doing?
Surprisingly, they seem to be okay, in high spirits. Obviously, they lost a lot of weight in the last 50 days. But when Alma came onto the phone, and it was a video call, so she had this big smile and glittering eyes, which brought tears to my eyes, really, to see us with this beautiful smile. And then I had a chat with Noam just to find out a little bit more what happened, how did they got captured by the Hamas terrorists, we worked on the assumption initially that they were all kidnapped together. And then after 14 days, it transpired that my sister was murdered by these terrorists. Her body was found in the kibbutz. And we buried her a week after. We just waited to see whether the others are captive or also dead. And luckily, we found out that they were captive. And one of the most terrible news that these two youngsters got when they arrived in Israel, Noam and Alma, was that their mother was murdered. They were not aware of it. And this was the first news that they had to confront with, and it was a very difficult moment for them.
You can only imagine, sat here, AN1, what they've gone through, to even not believe that they can probably ever be free, then to be freed, and then discover that their mother sadly was murdered, and also their father's whereabouts. Any news on that, Ahal? Any sort of communication in terms of where he might be? Is he one of, nothing, I guess?
No, we hoped that there would be some sort of light shed over his whereabouts or his condition as a result of their coming back, because we assumed that they were together because they hid together in the safety room. What transpired is that the kids, when the terrorists burnt the house to force them out of the safety room, the children jumped from the window and tried to hide in a neighbor's balcony. But they were found by the terrorists. They were taken by them. Noam was put in the trunk of a car. Alma was in the front of the car with 8 other terrorists, and they drove them. It was a kibbutz car that they stole, and they drove them in this fashion to Gaza.
And Ahal, if you've spoken to them and you're aware, what can you tell us about the time that they actually spent with Hamas? Were they kept in tunnels? What kind of conditions were they kept in when they were in Gaza?
So to my understanding, they were not in a tunnel. They were kept in a room in a house together with another lady from the kibbutz. She was not a kibbutz member, but she was visiting the kibbutz, and she was born and raised on the kibbutz. So it was the 3 of them. The first few weeks were not ideal, to say the least. I don't want to go into more details. I don't want to make other parents worried for their loved ones.
Of course.
But just sitting on the sofa and watching television.
I think that's the issue as well, isn't it? And you're such an incredible guy, and you've been so strong to come back on as well. There must be real relief that your niece and nephew are free, the horror of having to explain about the mother, but also the belief that there are plenty of other families whose loved ones haven't come back. And I guess guilt mixed with elation, right?
For me, it's not guilt. I'm just worried about the other hostages. Dror, the parents, but there are so many of them. And they formed some sort of a family union around the release of all the hostages. And I subscribe to this. So you are extremely happy to have the children back, but you are not celebrating because you know that the fate of other as worthy individuals as our children are still out there at the hand of this sadistic and cruel terrorist organization.